In modern conflict, the most decisive actions are often the ones that don't make headlines immediately. These are the moves that happen behind the scenes: quiet deployments, subtle repositioning of forces, shifts in surveillance patterns, and strategic coordination that the public rarely notices in real time. While the world is focused on visible events like explosions, speeches, or official statements, the real game is often being played in silence. These silent moves are powerful because they operate under the radar. There's no warning, no buildup, and no time for the opposition to fully understand what's happening before it's already in motion. By the time analysts begin to piece together the clues, the strategy has already taken effect. This creates a situation where one side is always a step ahead, not because they are stronger in numbers, but because they are smarter in execution. Another critical aspect of these quiet actions is the element of surprise. In warfare and strategy, surprise isn't just an advantage, it's often the deciding factor. When a move is silent, it removes the opponent's ability to prepare or respond effectively. It forces them into a reactive position where every decision they make is based on incomplete information. And in high-stakes situations, reacting late or incorrectly can shift the entire balance. There's also a psychological dimension to this. When nothing obvious is happening but subtle changes are detected, it creates uncertainty. Opponents begin to question what they might be missing. They start second-guessing their intelligence, their assumptions, and even their own strategy. That doubt spreads quickly, affecting decision-making at every level. Leaders hesitate, commanders become cautious, and that hesitation can be more damaging than any direct attack. Silent moves also allow for flexibility. Because they are not publicly declared or visibly aggressive, they can be adjusted, redirected, or even reversed without drawing attention. This gives a strategic advantage where one side can test reactions, gather data, and adapt in real time without committing fully to a single course of action. In many cases, these quiet shifts are not just about immediate gains, but about setting up future outcomes. They create conditions that make larger moves possible later on. What looks like a minor adjustment today can open the door for a major operation tomorrow, all without triggering early resistance. This is why, when analyzing any major shift, the absence of noise can be just as important as its presence. The real change often begins long before the world realizes it, hidden in movements that seem insignificant on the surface, but carry deep strategic intent underneath. When the United States makes a move on the global stage, it rarely comes from impulse or short-term emotion. Behind every decision is a layered process that combines intelligence gathering, risk assessment, historical analysis, and strategic forecasting. These decisions are shaped in rooms filled with data, satellite imagery, intercepted communications, ground reports, and predictive models, all working together to build a clearer picture of what's happening and what could happen next. This calculated approach means that nothing is left to chance. Before any action is taken, multiple scenarios are considered. What happens if the opponent responds aggressively? What if they hold back? What are the ripple effects on allies, on trade routes, on political stability? Each possibility is mapped out, not just for immediate outcomes, but for how it influences the bigger picture over time. Timing plays a crucial role in this strategy. It's not just about what move is made, but when it's made. A decision that might seem ineffective at one moment can become extremely powerful at another, simply because conditions have shifted. The U.S. often waits for the exact moment when its actions will have maximum impact with minimal resistance. That patience is part of what makes the strategy so effective. It's not rushed, it's precise. Another important factor is coordination. Military decisions are rarely isolated. They are aligned with diplomatic efforts, economic policies, and alliances. A single move might be supported by behind-the-scenes conversations with partner nations, adjustments in economic pressure, or signals sent through international channels. This creates a multi-dimensional strategy where different elements reinforce each other, making the overall impact stronger and more controlled. There's also a strong focus on minimizing uncertainty internally while maximizing it externally. Inside the system, there is clarity, clear objectives, defined roles, and structured execution. Outside, however, the picture is intentionally less clear. Opponents are left trying to interpret signals, often without knowing the full context. This imbalance gives a strategic edge, as one side operates with confidence while the other deals with doubt. Adaptability is built into this calculated process as well. Even after a decision is made, it's constantly being evaluated in real time. If conditions change, adjustments are made quickly but quietly. This ensures that the strategy remains effective even in unpredictable environments, allowing it to evolve without losing its core direction. All of this contributes to a system where every move serves a purpose beyond what is immediately visible. It's not just about reacting to the present situation, but about shaping future outcomes in a way that aligns with long-term objectives. In modern warfare, strength is no longer measured only by how quickly or forcefully a country can strike, but by how effectively it can position itself before a strike is ever needed. This shift represents a deeper understanding of power, one where controlling space, timing, and perception can be more decisive than direct engagement. Instead of rushing into confrontation, the focus moves toward creating an environment where the outcome is already influenced long before any visible conflict begins. Positioning involves placing resources, assets, and influence in locations that provide maximum strategic advantage. This could mean moving naval forces into key waterways, adjusting air presence in sensitive regions, or strengthening alliances in areas that hold long-term importance. Each of these moves might appear routine on the surface, but together they form a network of control that shapes how events can unfold. One of the key benefits of this approach is that it reduces the need for immediate escalation. By being in the right place at the right time, a country can deter aggression without firing a shot. The presence itself becomes a signal, a clear indication that any hostile move will be met with a prepared and capable response. This creates a form of pressure that operates continuously, influencing decisions on the other side without direct confrontation. At the same time, positioning allows for faster reaction when needed. When assets are already in place, response times shrink dramatically. There's no delay in mobilization, no need for large-scale movement under pressure. Everything is already aligned for action, which increases both efficiency and effectiveness. This readiness changes the dynamics of the situation, as opponents know that any opportunity for advantage is limited. Another layer to this strategy is control over information and perception. By carefully choosing where and how to position forces, a narrative is created. It signals intent without fully revealing it. It shows capability without necessarily using it. This balance between visibility and ambiguity keeps opponents uncertain, forcing them to constantly reassess what might come next. Positioning also opens the door to multiple options. Instead of committing to a single path, it creates flexibility. From a strong position, decisions can be adjusted based on how the situation evolves. Whether the goal is to de-escalate, maintain pressure, or transition into direct action, the groundwork is already in place to support that shift. This approach reflects a broader change in how power is applied. It's less about reacting in the moment and more about shaping the conditions of the moment itself. By the time a direct conflict becomes visible, much of the advantage has already been secured through careful, deliberate positioning. In modern strategy, influencing the mind of the opponent can be just as powerful as controlling territory or resources. Psychological pressure is not created through a single action, but through a series of calculated signals, patterns, and uncertainties that slowly build tension over time. It works by targeting decision-making itself, making the opponent feel unsure, rushed, or overwhelmed without a clear understanding of why. One of the most effective ways this pressure is created is through ambiguity. When actions are visible but their intent is unclear, it forces the other side to interpret, guess, and constantly reassess. A movement of forces, a sudden shift in posture, or even silence where a response was expected can all trigger questions. What does it mean? What comes next? Is this preparation or just a distraction? These unanswered questions begin to weigh heavily on leadership and command structures. As uncertainty grows, so does the risk of miscalculation. Decisions start being made based not on confirmed information, but on assumptions. And in high-stakes environments, assumptions can lead to overreactions or hesitation. Both outcomes are advantageous to the side applying the pressure. An overreaction can expose vulnerabilities, while hesitation can create openings that were not there before. Another layer of psychological pressure comes from consistency in unpredictability. When a pattern cannot be easily identified, it becomes difficult to plan against it. The opponent is left trying to prepare for multiple possibilities at once, stretching their focus and resources thin. This constant state of alertness drains energy, reduces clarity, and increases the likelihood of mistakes over time. There is also a signaling effect involved. Strategic moves are often designed not just for their physical impact, but for the message they send. A well-timed action can communicate confidence, readiness, and control without direct confrontation. These signals are observed not only by the opponent, but by allies and global observers, adding another layer of pressure. The opponent is not just reacting internally, but also under the awareness that their response is being watched and judged on an international level. Psychological pressure also affects the speed of decision-making. When faced with uncertainty and perceived threats, leaders may feel compelled to act quickly, sometimes before fully understanding the situation. This urgency can disrupt normal planning processes, leading to decisions that are less calculated and more reactive. Over time, this imbalance shifts control toward the side that remains composed and strategically patient. Another important aspect is how this pressure accumulates. It is rarely about one major moment, but about a buildup of smaller, consistent signals that gradually shape perception. Each movement, each delay, each unexpected shift adds another layer, making it harder for the opponent to maintain confidence in their own strategy. In this environment, control is not just about physical dominance, but about shaping how the opponent thinks, reacts, and ultimately decides. When a major power like the United States makes a strategic move, its effects rarely stay confined to the immediate conflict zone. The consequences begin to ripple outward, touching regions, economies, alliances, and political systems far beyond the original point of action. What might appear as a localized adjustment on the surface often carries implications that reshape global dynamics in subtle but powerful ways. One of the first areas where this impact is felt is among allies. Countries that are closely aligned begin to reassess their own positions based on the shift. They look for signals, not just in what is done, but in how it is done. A strategic move can reassure partners, strengthen commitments, and reinforce trust. At the same time, it can also prompt them to adjust their own strategies, increase readiness, or coordinate more closely in anticipation of what might come next. Economic systems are another layer deeply connected to these developments. Global markets are highly sensitive to uncertainty, especially when it involves major geopolitical players. A single move can influence oil prices, trade routes, currency stability, and investor confidence. Businesses and governments alike begin to factor in new risks, adjusting their decisions based on how they interpret the situation. Even without direct conflict, the perception of change can trigger real economic consequences across continents. There's also a strong political dimension to consider. Governments around the world observe these actions and respond in ways that align with their own interests. Some may publicly support the move, others may criticize it, while many take a more cautious approach, waiting to see how the situation evolves. These reactions shape international discourse, influence diplomatic relationships, and sometimes redefine existing alliances or rivalries. Another important factor is the effect on global institutions and cooperative frameworks. Organizations that operate on international cooperation begin to feel the pressure of shifting dynamics. Decisions become more complex, as member states bring different perspectives and priorities to the table. What was once a stable agreement can suddenly become uncertain, requiring renegotiation or adaptation. Public perception also plays a role on a global scale. News spreads quickly, and narratives begin to form almost instantly. People across different countries interpret the same event in different ways, influenced by media, culture, and political context. This creates a wide range of opinions, which in turn can influence domestic policies and leadership decisions in those countries. In many cases, the impact extends even further into long-term strategic planning. Nations that are not directly involved in the conflict still study these moves carefully. They analyze what worked, what signals were sent, and how the global response unfolded. These observations shape future policies, defense strategies, and international positioning for years to come. What makes this global impact particularly significant is that it often unfolds gradually. It's not always a sudden shift, but a chain reaction where each response leads to another, creating a complex web of consequences that continues to evolve over time. In any conflict, there are rare moments that fundamentally alter the trajectory of events, creating a clear before and after. This is one of those moments, a turning point where the balance of power, perception, and strategy shifts in ways that can redefine outcomes long into the future. What makes a turning point so critical is that it is not just about immediate actions, but about the strategic alignment, timing, and cumulative effect of those actions coming together at the right moment. Turning points often emerge when multiple factors converge simultaneously. It could be the repositioning of forces, the release of new intelligence, or the coordinated signaling to both allies and adversaries. Each element on its own might seem routine, but when they align, the effect is magnified exponentially. This creates a scenario where the opponent is forced into reactionary decisions, operating under pressure while the initiator maintains the initiative. Another defining feature of a turning point is its ability to reshape perceptions. Even without a single major confrontation, the understanding of who holds the advantage can change dramatically. Allies gain confidence and clarity in their strategic positioning, while opponents begin to question their assumptions, strategies, and even their ability to respond effectively. This shift in perception alone can influence decisions, sometimes more than any physical maneuver on the ground. Timing is also crucial. A turning point doesn't happen by accident. It is carefully orchestrated to occur at a moment when it can have maximum impact. The strategic planners analyze weeks or even months of intelligence, anticipating movements, reactions, and potential counteractions. When everything aligns, the environment, readiness, and positioning, the move creates momentum that is difficult to reverse. Flexibility and adaptability amplify the significance of a turning point. By controlling multiple options and maintaining readiness, the side initiating the shift can pivot quickly depending on how opponents respond. This ability to adjust in real time ensures that the momentum gained is preserved and leveraged effectively, rather than lost to unforeseen challenges. A turning point also sets the stage for future operations. It doesn't resolve the conflict entirely, but it redefines the conditions under which the next moves will take place. By altering the balance of advantage, creating pressure, and shaping perception, it changes what is possible and what is likely. Decisions that follow this moment are no longer made in a vacuum, but are influenced by the new dynamics established at the turning point. In essence, a turning point is about control, not just of forces, but of timing, perception, and options. It is the moment where preparation meets opportunity, where strategy converges with execution, and where the future trajectory of events is fundamentally altered.